This is of Malice and Mirth.
Hello, hello.
Good day
Welcome to,
of Malice and Mirth.
I was going to say episode 10, but that too. We are covering urban legends today.
Yes.
And I'm covering Mothman.
Oh.
What? So that's exciting.
But thank you guys for staying with us this long for this amazing 10th episode.
I know, 10, man. We fill out both hands.
Yes.
That's when I was 5. I don't know why I remember this because I don't remember a whole lot of shit.
Yeah.
But like, I remember waking up on my 5th birthday and being so excited that I filled up a whole hand. Like, I remember the feeling. I remember the thoughts. I don't know why. But anyways, we fill up 2 whole hands with our episode count. What? Okay. She's looking at me like I lost my mind. Anyways, yeah, I don't think we have anything else really to say right now.
Other than we hope you enjoyed the episode.
Yeah.
Are we ready?
Yeah, let's just get into it, man.
All right, so we're going to start with me, yes?
Yes.
All right. So we are going to take a look at the history of like urban legends, folklore, how they kind of all tie in together, how they're similar, and all that good stuff.
All right.
Yeah?
Sounds good.
All right. So we often think of folklore as something ancient or old, about faith circles, mountain spirits locked in the minds of our ancestors, right? We think of urban legends as something new. The hook-handed killer or the call coming from inside the house, right? Yeah. And the more sinister cousins of these stories are the creepypastas.
Yes.
So,
and we love the creepypastas.
Right. So, what if I told you that they are all the same ghost, just wearing different clothes?
Okay.
Right?
Oh, okay.
Right? All right. So, let's break it down. So, you have folklore. Folklore is the bedrock. It's traditional, often tied to specific culture and geography and passed down through generations, right? So it explains the why of the world, why we stay out of the woods or why we leave a bowl of milk on the porch, right?
Yeah.
Whereas urban legends are like folklore's more edgy cousin. It's like they're the FOAF or the friend of a friend stories. Right?
Okay, yeah.
So they rely on modern settings like skyscrapers, subways, like suburban houses, stuff like that, right? So the main difference, a folklore feels like a warning from the past, whereas like an urban legend is like a threat in the present.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
That makes sense.
So let's take like a little deeper dive into like folklore. So the term was coined in 1846 by William Thornes. Before that, these stories were simply called popular antiquities, which I kind of like the way that sounds, right? Folklore consists of the lore or knowledge and traditions of the folk, or which is any group of people who shared at least one common factor. So like language, ritual, location,
culture.
Yeah. Going with that. Right? So the typical elements of folklore is the orality. So it's passed by mouth, leading to multiple variants of the same story.
Yeah, like
right?
telephone. Yeah.
Right. So the examples would be like Bigfoot, Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Or you have vampires. Yes, they may all be called the same thing, but they're all slightly different depending on what region you're in. So, and then you have like the crying lady, right? So like Germany has the Lorelei. Okay. The United States, like proper, has it's the term the white lady. Which I was like, okay, I haven't heard it that way. Or in like the Southwest, you have La Llorona, right? So La Llorona is characterized by her infanticide and the maternal guilt that goes along with that.
Yeah.
Whereas the white lady is often a haunting guardian or an omen.
Oh, okay.
And then the Lorelei is a siren luring men to their destruction. So depending like where you're at,
the weeping woman does
different things. Yeah. Right? So there's that. And then they also have like the anonymity. So there's rarely like one single author. Like it's like this is told here, but then like it sounds like it's coming like from somebody else because somebody else told it. It's not like one person owns it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, and then it often starts off as like once upon a time, or it has like the rule of 3. So you have 3 brothers, or you have 3 wishes, things like that.
Okay.
And then the tradition it's to maintain a link to our past while adapting and slightly changing each time it's told.
Okay.
Okay. So folklore is the lore of the folk, our shared cultural DNA. How does a story born in a tiny village in the mountains end up whispered in a seaside tavern 3,000 miles away? Think of a story not as an object, but as a living echo. Okay. So in the beginning, stories weren't something you owned. They were something you carried. Folklore didn't live in ink or on shelves. It was lived in the rhythm of the loom, the steady pace of a march, and the shared warmth of a campfire. It moved as we moved. This movement is what scholars call diffusion. In the ancient world, stories were the only survival gear that didn't take up space in a pack. So they hitched a ride in the memories of hunters following the horizon and the songs of the nomadic tribes crossing the plains.
Okay.
I feel like that's such a pretty way to think of it, right? So, but here's the fascinating part. As stories travel, it undergoes localization. So it's like a plant taking on the mineral of the soil that has been replanted in.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So if the story about a hidden spirit travels to a dense forest, the spirit becomes part of the trees. If that same story travels to the high peaks, it becomes a creature of stone and wind.
Okay.
And then the skin of the story changes to survive the new environment, but the skeleton, the core human experience, remains exactly the same.
That's a really cool way to put that. Okay.
All right. So to see this in action, we have to look at one of the oldest skeletons in the human closet. The unknowing spirit. This is a soul that's tethered to their work or their routine or their home that they fail to see that the world has moved on.
Okay.
All right. So if we look at the documented history, we see the same ghostly worker appearing in almost every corner of the map. So first we go to ancient Rome, 1st century AD. The author Pliny the Younger recorded a letter describing a house in Athens. It wasn't haunted by a demon, but by an old man rattling chains. He wasn't there to haunt the living. He was simply there, which you're like, what? So he was bound to the site of his unfinished business. He was so focused on the work of his own suffering that he didn't realize the living had moved in around him.
Oh.
So, and then I did put links in. So if you want to like go take deeper dives, I'm just kind of giving like a synopsis of each one. So that's one in ancient Rome. Now we're going to go move that echo to Japan. So in the early 1900s, the scholar Kunio Yanagita, the father of Japanese folklore, documented the legends of the Tono.
Okay.
It's spelled Tono.
Okay.
So he wrote about the Zashiki Warashi. Okay. Yep, got it. Okay. Or the floorboard residents. These aren't spirits who visit, they're spirits who inhabit. They are heard performing domestic chores like spinning wheels or pitter-pattering across mats. They aren't haunting the families, they're just living their own parallel lives.
Okay.
So they're so consumed by their domestic role that they ignore the people sharing their space.
Okay.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So finally, we're going to look at the Nordic Tomta, which is documented by Benjamin Thorpe's Northern Mythology, which was in 1851. The Tomta is an ancestral spirit tied to the labor of a farm. He grooms horses and he sweeps the barn. He is the ultimate worker who forgot to just stop.
I mean, send him my way.
To him, a new family moving in isn't a haunting. They're just intruders interfering with his ancient chores.
I mean, if you're going to have a ghost doing your outside chores, who's going to complain about that? Really?
Right. So you see the pattern, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's Pliny's rattling chains or the Japanese spinning wheel, the nomadic broom, the folklore tells us the same thing. Energy follows focus. If you focus long enough, you become part of the architecture of the task. You become a permanent resident of a moment in time.
Okay.
Right? Okay, so stories, like people, have to adapt to survive. For thousands of years, the bones of our folklore were wrapped in the textures of the natural world. They wore the skin of the deep woods, the salt of the sea, the isolation of a mountain pass. They were the stories designed to help us navigate a world governed by nature. But then the world got louder.
Okay.
In the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution acted like a massive surgery on the human imagination. We tore down the forests to build factories. We replaced the silence of the village with the roar of the city. So the skin of the old world, the trolls, the wood nymphs, the spirits of the hearth, couldn't survive the soot and the electricity. It began to rot away. But the bones are indestructible. The core structural fear of being watched by an unseen eye, or the dread of a stranger in your home, didn't vanish because we moved into apartments. The skeleton simply grew a new, tougher skin to survive the concrete. It traded the wolf's fur for the killer's raincoat. It traded the haunted carriage for a car with an engine trouble, right?
Okay, yeah.
So this is the birth of the urban legend. It is the ancient...
Interesting.
Yeah, see?
Okay.
So it's the ancient skeleton of folklore wearing the modern skin of the city.
Okay. I like that.
See? I got really into this when I was like researching. So to understand how the bones of the story stay the same while the skin adapts with time, we have to look at the world's most famous traveler, the vanishing hitchhiker. Okay. So I want to tell you two versions of this story. One is from the 1890s, documented in the rural post roads of New England, and the other is a classic account from the 1950s, the era of the open highway.
Okay.
So the 1890s, we have the carriage. And the story goes, a physician is driving his horse and buggy home through a torrential autumn rain. Near the gates of a local cemetery, he sees a young woman in a thin white muslin dress.
Okay.
Soaked to the bone, so he pulls his horse over and stop to like offer her a ride. She's shivering, so he drapes his heavy wool driving cloak over her shoulders. She gives him an address a few miles down the road and falls silent. When the physician reaches the house and turns to help her down, the passenger seat is empty. The woman is gone, right? So the doctor knocks on the door of the house where an elderly couple informs him that their daughter had died on that road years ago. And the next day he goes to the cemetery, and there, draped over the headstone, is a wool cloak.
Yeah.
Right? So that's that version.
Okay.
So now let's jump forward in time to the 60s? 1950s?
I thought 50s.
Yeah, 1950s. A young man is driving a Chevrolet Bel Air. Down a lonely stretch of Route 66, he spots a girl hitching a ride under a neon gas station light. He picks her up. She says she's trying to get home to her parents before, curfew hits. Yeah. So she seems to be shivering from the cold in the air, and he reaches into the back seat and hands her his Letterman, right?
Okay.
So she wraps it around her shoulders. They chit-chat about music, as they're driving by. And when they reach the driveway, the young man taps his brakes and turns to, let her get out. But when he turns his head, the passenger seat is vacant. So the door never opened, but the girl and his jacket are gone. Confused and shaken, he walks to the front door. The parents who answer look at him with a hollow kind of pity, and tells him their daughter died in a car accident that night, but 10 years ago. So the next morning, the young man drives to the cemetery, right? And there, draped over a headstone with the girl's name on it, is his Letterman jacket, neatly folded as if placed there by a living hand. So on the surface, these feel like different stories in time, but because the props have changed, but because we have like a buggy versus a Chevy. We have a wool cloak versus a varsity jacket. But if you strip away the fashion and the technology, the bones are the same.
Yeah.
So let's look at the structural checkpoints of these stories. So the threshold is both stories begin on a liminal space, a road which represents the transition between two worlds. Okay. And then the physical proof, both versions involved a physical object like the cloak or the letterman.
Yeah.
So the crucial bone, because it proves that the encounter wasn't just a trick of the light, it was a physical manifestation.
I thought something bit me. You know when you just get that random itch?
Yes.
I was like, oh my God.
So then we have the messenger. In both cases, the driver acts as the bridge between the dead and the grieving parents.
Okay.
Okay. And then the location. The spirit is always trying to get home.
Right.
So you have that between the two stories, even though they happened so far apart in time. See?
Right. Yeah.
Right? Okay. So now that we've glanced at the folklore and then the urban legend, what do you think comes next?
Why do you put me on the spot? Wait, folklore, urban legend.
Ready?
Yeah, go for it.
The creepypastas.
Oh, the creepypasta, duh. Oh my God. I'm so dumb. I can't, you know that I can't think when I'm put on the spot.
I know.
You can ask me my name and I'm like, oh my God, I don't remember.
Okay. So if the Industrial Revolution was a surgery on the human imagination, the internet was an explosion. By the 1990s and early 2000s, the urban legend, the story told over backyard fences and at sleepovers, found a new place to hide. The humming machine in the corner of the den, and now the glowing rectangle in your pocket.
Yes.
This is where the urban legend evolved into its most viral form, the creepypasta. The term itself is a linguistic mutation born from copypasta, blocks of text that were copied and posted across forums like 4chan and Reddit until the original authors were lost in time. This is a crucial return to form. Much like ancient folk tales of the 1700s, creepypastas have no owner. They belong to the collective. It is an oral tradition just performed through a keyboard.
Okay.
So...
Oh, that's interesting. So technically people who write their own horror, like short horrors, those aren't actually creepypastas because they're not retold time to time again.
Right.
So we've been calling them creepypastas when they're not actually creepypastas.
I mean, I guess...
But they're along it's the same genre.
Right.
Yeah.
But the medium of the internet didn't just change how we tell the stories. It changed the skin that the bones have to wear yet again. In the traditional urban legend like The Hook or The Vanishing Hitchhiker, the horror is physical. It's an escaped killer, it's the girl in a car. But in the world of creepypasta, the horror is conceptual. We move from the fear of the stranger to the fear of the glitch. Creepypasta thrives in the uncanny valley of the digital age. It uses the very tools we use for truth, like photographs, GPS coordinates, and forum testimonials, to lie to us. For example, the legend of the Slender Man. Born in 2009 on the Something Awful forums, this wasn't just a story. It was a photo manipulation contest. The horror came from seeing a figure that shouldn't be there hiding in the backgrounds of real historical photos. Then you have the back rooms. This legend's...
Wait, Slender Man.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was already an urban legend. I didn't realize.
Yeah, it started from a
Creepypasta.
Yeah, so it started as a photo contest.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Right.
I forgot about that. I listened to an episode on that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. So then you have the back rooms. This legend suggests that if you no-clip, and I'll explain that in a second, out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in an infinite yellow carpeted office space. This is purely digital fear, the dread that our reality has bugs just like a video game. So I had to like look up what a no clip is. So a no clip is a common video game cheat command and the developer tool that disables collision detections, allowing the player's character or camera to pass through solid objects like walls, floors, ceilings, and it's used to explore maps and bypass obstacles or move freely in any direction, and usually the character is like floating.
Okay.
So that's kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but that's, to me, it's like, think about the Matrix, like, but you can't.
Yeah.
Because you don't.
Because I've never seen it.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm confused a little bit.
Why are you confused? So, like, the difference between, like, the folklore or the urban legends, they were more physical things.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the creepypastas are...
I think you lost me with the no clip.
The no clip?
Yeah.
Because you don't play video games.
Yeah. I think that's why I got confused and kind of, like, tried to piece it together and didn't.
I can't give you a crash course in video games.
Everyone else will get it. I'm sure.
Okay. So let's look at the example of the change from urban legend to creepypasta. Okay. So we have the grinning man's new suit. So we're going to start with like the urban legend. All right. So to understand how the story migrates from the pavement to pixels, we have to look at one specific set of bones, the grinning man. Okay. This is a rare case where we're actually able to watch the skin be swapped in real time. I want to tell you two versions of the encounter, kind of like how I did earlier. Okay. One is a documented mystery from the 1960s, and the other is a viral digital haunting from 2012. Okay. So in the 1960s, just kidding. In 1966, a salesman named Woodrow Derenberger was driving down a dark, rainy highway in West Virginia. A strange metallic vehicle forced him off the shoulder. A man stepped out, but he didn't walk. He stood perfectly still, arms tucked under his armpits. He was over 6 feet tall, wearing a shimmering charcoal-colored suit that looked like polished metal. But the detail that made Woodrow's blood run cold was the man's face. He had a wide, fixed, ear-to-ear grin that never wavered, right? Even as he claimed his name was Indrid Cold, this wasn't a campfire tale. It was a news report. It was a close encounter for the space age. Okay. So then in 2012, we're going to jump 46 years forward on a thread on Reddit. Okay. And the narrator on Reddit is walking home at 2 a.m. on a deserted, well-lit city sidewalk. He sees a man in a slight, old-fashioned tuxedo waltzing towards him, performing a bizarre rhythmic pro-step while staring directly at the sky.
Hold on. Was he waltzing like just walking with a sway to him, or was he literally 1, 2, 3 waltzing?
Waltzing, like dancing.
Okay, that'd be kind of weird.
Right? So he was performing this bizarre rhythmic pro-step while staring directly at the sky. As the man gets closer, the narrator sees a face, a massive cartoonish grin plastered across his features. The dancer stops, stares at the narrator with a wide, unblinking eyes, and then begins to sprint towards him. Still grinning, still silent.
I don't like it.
So see, on the surface, these feel like different monsters. One is like an alien visitor in a like metallic suit, and the other is like localized psychopath in a tuxedo. Right. So, but let's look at the bones of like the story. I'm gonna keep referring to it as like bones and skin. I love it. So, when we look at it, the expressions.
We can make it a drinking game. Everyone drink when she says bones.
Oh, I'd be super drunk by the end, right? So, both stories rely on like the biological like short circuit. Like a smile is a human signal for safety. Like when somebody smiles at you, you want to say hi, you want to smile back, right? Yeah. But when a monster wears it as a mask, our brains can't process that as a threat. Like it's kind of like it kind of catches you off guard and you're like, what?
I don't understand why I'm afraid of you.
Right. Because you're smiling, you're supposed to be friendly. Yeah. You know what I mean? So there's that. And then like the movement is the second thing we're going to look at. Both figures move wrong. Like whether it's standing perfectly still, because I feel like as a human, you can't stand
perfectly still. Yeah,
like you either sway a little bit or you fidget or, you know, especially like, okay.
Or you jolt or something.
Yeah. Like a mom will always have the mom sway, you know, like when you're just standing there.
I saw a TikTok of that the other day, and it was like, I'm the only person in line that's not a mom, and it had like 5 women in front of them in line just swaying back and forth.
And it's like, you don't realize you're doing it. That's just like a human thing to do. Yeah. Right? So whether, like I said, whether it's like standing perfectly still or skyward waltzing, like like just staring up at the sky and waltzing, it's like so creepy. It's weird. Like the skeleton is defined by an uncanny violation of the human physics. Like there's no way somebody can just do that without it not being weird, you know. I mean, if you want to bust out like and bust a move in the middle of like a crowded space, by all means do it. Like
you do you.
I'm all for it. Just don't do it like
just
that.
Don't do it while smiling up at the sky coming at me. Like,
so the third thing that both of these stories have in common is like the lonely highway, and then it's replaced by, you know, a city street. So it's not like they're completely identical, but they're not so
far away
each other that it doesn't make that correlation. Yeah. You know what I mean? The mutation is in the 1960s. We were so obsessed with the space race and the men in black. So the skeleton grew the skin of the extraterrestrial. He arrived in a craft. He spoke like in the story. I didn't like mention it a whole lot, but you can go check that out if you want to. He spoke like telepathically or whatever. So that gives that like alien-esque type feeling. And then in 2012, our fears had moved inward. We became afraid of the uncanny, the idea that reality itself is a simulation that can glitch. So, yeah. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. No, I get that.
So the skeletons like shed the spacesuit and put on a tuxedo. I thought that was really cool. It stopped being an alien and became a creepypasta.
A creepypasta.
Yeah, it became a glitch in the human behavior. So the medium changed from newspaper report to Reddit post. But the bones remained. The fear of a man who smiles when he should be hunting, basically, is what it is. Yeah. Instead of like, rawr. I'm on a slow walk with my knife. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
So we're going to remember like the physical proof of the hitchhiker stories, the wool cloak, the headstones, and the letterman on the grave. That was the bone to prove those ghosts solid, right? So in the world of creepypasta, we traded the cloak for a digital artifact. The proof today is a grainy YouTube video where 144 pixel resolution. It's a lost media file, a corrupted episode from a children's cartoon that was supposedly never aired.
Pixar, it didn't happen.
See? So it's these threads on forums where the original poster just suddenly stops replying. You know? So we don't look for a grave anymore. We look for a timestamp. We don't look for a signature. We look for metadata. Like that's what we look for now. The medium of creepypasta allows the unknowing spirit to live forever in the machine. It suggests that the skeleton of our fear hasn't just moved into the city, it's moved into the code.
Okay.
So we are no longer afraid of the dark woods outside our window. We're afraid of the dark web inside our routers.
Yes.
See?
Yeah.
So whether it's a Roman spirit in a villa, a hitchhiker in a Chevy, a glitch in a JPEG file, the bones remain identical. We're terrified of the thing that doesn't belong, the thing that is out of place, and the thing that doesn't know it's supposed to be gone. The skin is just...
Oh, sorry, continue. I was just hawing.
The skin is just the fashion of the century. Right now, our fear is dressed in pixels. Up until now, we've talked about the stories that happen to people, right? So the doctor picking up the girl, the young man trying to get the girl home. But there is a darker, more active branch of this research, a place where the folklore just isn't a story you tell, but a map you follow. So in the next episode, I want to look at the games.
Games.
Yeah. Tracing.
Oh.
Yeah. Tracing a single terrifying bone, the summoning ritual. We'll see how it evolved from a silent, candlelit dumb suppers of the 19th century Appalachian frontier to the bathroom mirror dares of the Bloody Mary, and finally to the modern elevator game.
Yes.
So a digital protocol that treats our physical world like a video game you can no clip out of if you press the right buttons in the right order.
Well, Lord knows I'm never going to do that, so...
So we're going to ask why humans have the obsessive need to knock on the door of the afterlife to see if it's locked.
Ooh.
Is it just a game? Are we actually testing the integrity of the skin we call reality? Next time, we're playing for keeps. Check your metadata, watch your mirrors, and whatever you do, don't assume the person you're giving a ride to isn't a ghost.
Oh, la-di-da. I loved it.
Thanks.
That was really cool. I never would have thought about how folklore just kind of transitioned into urban legend, which transitioned into creepypasta. Like I never put that together before, so that was really cool.
Thanks. That's just kind of like how my brain works.
Worked
like,
it. Yeah. It worked it. Worked it.
I don't know why I had to make all those noises.
Okay. Well, it is my turn, and I did Mothman.
What?
So, there's a specific kind of darkness you only find in the rural, which is a word I can't say. Rural Midwest.
See, I don't think I say it right either because I'm all rural.
Anyways, specific kind of darkness that you only find in the rural Midwest. It's not just the absence of light, it's a heavy, velvet-thick silence that makes you feel like the trees are leaning in just a little too close to the road. And yes, I know you're wearing velvet today.
I am on my velvet game today. Velvet dress and shoes and purse. I'm just about it.
Yes,
sorry, I just had to go on about it for a second.
I saw you get so excited the second I said that word. For most people, it's just a trick of a mind, a byproduct of too much caffeine, or a long drive on a lonely highway. But for the people of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, in the mid-1960s, that darkness started staring back.
Ooh.
We aren't talking about ghosts or your standard UFO sightings here. We're talking about something that feels much more physical, yet entirely impossible. Today, we're looking at the Mothman. But to understand why this creature still haunts our collective psyche after half a century later, we have to go back to a very specific cold November night in 1966. It actually started in a graveyard. Not to be cliche, but that's the reality. 5 men were out in the town of Clendenin, just a bit outside of Point Pleasure, digging a grave for a burial the next day. Burial. Fuck, what did I said burial.
Yes, you did.
Why does that word kill me? Burial the next day. As they worked, something rose out of the nearby trees. They described it as a brown human-shaped figure, but it didn't walk, it soared over their heads, moving with a speed and silence that left these hard-working, no-nonsense men completely rattled. They didn't have a name for it yet. They just knew that whatever it wasn't a bird, and it certainly wasn't a man. But that graveyard sighting was just the prologue. The real story, the one that blew the doors off the town and started a year of localized madness, happened 3 days later on November 15th. 2 young couples, the Scarberrys and the Malots, were driving late at night in a black 1957 Chevy. They were headed through what the locals call the TNT area. It's a sprawling, abandoned World War II explosives manufacturing facility north of Point Pleasant. Picture a maze of overgrown roads, rusted gates, and concrete bunkers hidden under hills of dirt designed to survive a blast. As they passed an old generator plant near the edge of the facility, they saw 2 red lights in the shadows near a large gate. Except they weren't lights. As the car got closer, the driver, Roger Scarberry, slammed on the brakes. There, standing about 6 or 7 feet tall, was a creature that looked like a man, but wrong. It was gray, slightly slumped, and had a pair of massive wings folded against its back. but it was the eyes that stayed with them. Hypnotic, glowing red, and set wide apart near the top of its shoulders.
Oh.
Yeah. Understandably, they bolted. Roger pushed that Chevy to 100 miles an hour, flying down Route 62. But as they looked out the windows, the creature was right there with them. It wasn't flapping its wings, it was gliding, pacing the car effortlessly at triple-digit speeds.
You want to know what that's reminding me of, though?
What?
Jeepers Creepers.
Jeepers Creepers?
Yeah.
You know what it reminded me of?
What?
Edward Cullen. Or better yet, Emmett. No, but like Edward, when like she's driving down the highway and all of a sudden he pops up in her driver's side window and is like, hey, let me in. And like she scoots over and he comes in the car and it's still driving down the highway. That's what that made me think of.
I like how our brains went in two totally different directions.
But it wasn't flapping its wings, it was just gliding. They reported that it emitted a sound they could only describe as a squeak like a big mouse or a high-pitched feminine shriek. When they reached the city limits, the creature peeled off into the night. They went straight to the police station. The sheriff at the time, Charlie Miller, looked at these 4 young people who were visibly terrified, not drunk, and clearly not joking, and he believed that they saw something. The news of the Scarsberries and the Malottes hit the Point Pleasure Register, and the dam didn't just break, it shattered. Within days, the town was crawling with monster hunters armed with shotguns and flashlights.
Dang.
But while the tourists were looking for a thrill, the locals were having encounters that felt much more personal and much more predatory. Take the case of Newell Partridge. He was a local contractor living in Salem, about 90 miles from Point Pleasant. On the night of November 5th...
Point Pleasant or Point Pleasure?
Pleasant. Yes.
Okay.
Point Pleasant. I was like, did I say Point Pleasure? No, Point Pleasant. Anyways, he was a local contractor living in Salem, about 90 miles away. On the night of November 15th, the very same night the young couples were being chased, Newell was sitting in his living room when his television suddenly went haywire. The screen didn't just flicker, it filled with a vibrant, pulsating herringbone pattern, and a high-pitched whine began to vibrate through the floorboard. Outside on the porch, his dog Bandit, a prize-winning German Shepherd and a fearless protector, started howling, a sound Newell had never heard before. When Newell stepped outside with a flashlight, he swept the beam toward his hay barn. 2 giant red orbs reflected the light back at him. He later described them as looking like bicycle reflectors, but they were alive. Bandit, usually obedient, ignored his master's whistle and bolted into the darkness towards the eyes.
No!
Newell never saw Bandit again. The only thing left in the morning were the dog's tracks, which ended abruptly in the mud as if he'd been lifted straight into the air. I know, I'm sorry. I apologize. That sense of being hunted started to bleed into the town itself. One of the most chilling reports came from Mrs. Marcella Benedict. No? Benedict? No. Bennett.
Yeah.
Anyways, Miss Marcella Bennett. She was visiting friends who lived in a small house right on the edge of the TNT compound. It was a quiet evening, and she was carrying her baby from the car to the front door. As she walked... what is wrong with me? As she walked, a shadow figure shifted near the parked cars. A figure rose slowly from the ground, a massive gray shape that had been huddling in the darkness. Mrs. Bennet was so overcome with a sense of pure cold evil that she actually dropped to the ground in a trance-like state, shielding her child.
Aww.
The creature didn't attack, it simply unfolded those massive wings and stared at her with those hypnotic red eyes before ascending over the roof of the house. The description of the Mothman started to solidify as more people came forward, and it's important to note how consistent it was. This wasn't a moth in the biological sense. No one ever reported antennae or fuzzy legs. It was always described as a man-bird or a gray thing. It stood roughly 7 feet tall. The wingspan was massive, some said up to 10 feet.
Dang.
But the most unsettling detail was always the head or lack thereof. Most witnesses said the red eyes were embedded in the chest area or the neck area, giving it a hunched, monstrous silhouette that felt more alien than animal. It's easy to look back and say, oh, it was just a large bird, and many skeptics did. Dr. Robert Smith at West Virginia University famously suggested it was a sandhill crane that had wandered off its migration path. And sure, a crane is large, has red patches around its eyes, and can be intimidating, but the people of Point Pleasant knew what a crane looked like. They knew what owls looked like. What they were seeing had a muscular, humanoid frame and a flight pattern that defied physics, taking off straight up like a helicopter without the need for a runway. The psychological toll of these sightings is something often overlooked. Witnesses didn't just see a bird, they experienced what researchers call the Oz factor, a complete silencing of the environment, a feeling of being in a vacuum, followed by weeks of extreme lethargy and vivid nightmares.
Ooh.
As the winter turned into the spring of 1967, the sightings took a turn for the truly bizarre. It wasn't just the Birdman anymore. This is where the story of Point Pleasant stops being a simple creature feature and starts feeling like a fever dream. People started reporting the Grinning Man. Yeah. I know.
See, I just love that we don't talk about our research.
I know. And then what? Synchronicity. One witness, a salesman named Woodrow Derenberger, was driving home when a dark charcoal-colored vehicle cut him off and forced him to the side of the road.
Is that why you looked at me like that earlier? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. A man stepped out, but he didn't look like a local. He had slicked back hair, a dark suit, and a grin that was physically too wide for his face, showing rows of teeth that never seemed to move when he spoke. Ugh. He introduced himself as Indrid Cold. Cold didn't speak with his mouth. Derenberger claimed the conversation happened entirely inside his head.
See?
Yep. The man asked about the town, asked about the agitation in the area, and then simply got back in his car and vanished. Now you might ask, what does a telepathic grinning man have to do with a winged monster and a TNT plant? To the people living through it, everything felt connected. It was as if the Mothman had acted as a scout, opening a door to a reality where the rules no longer applied. Throughout that summer, the local police logs were filled with reports that sounded like science fiction. Residents in the Ohio River Valley reported giant glowing spheres hovering over the chemical plants. Farmers found cattle mutilated in ways that defied predatory behavior. And then there were the men in black. These weren't the slick agents from the movies. These were unsettling, uncanny figures who would knock on the doors of Mothman witnesses. They often wore hats pulled low, spoke in monotonous voices, and seemed confused by basic human objects like a ballpoint pen or a spoon. They would warn witnesses to stop talking about what they saw for their own safety.
You want to know what that reminds me of?
What?
Remember how, like, a few episodes back I was talking about Fringe?
Yeah.
Okay. They have, like, a character that's kind of like that called the Observer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm telling you, you have to watch that show.
I know. I forgot. You'll have to remind me. Like, text me and remind me.
Okay.
Okay. One local reporter, Mary Heyer, became the focal point for these visits. She was the one documenting every sighting, and she started noticing the same black Cadillacs following her. Strange men would come into her office claiming to be census takers or journalists, but they would stare at her without blinking for minutes at a time.
Ew.
Yeah. The man who really put this on the map was John Keel, a journalist and ufologist who UFOologist, whatever, who moved to Point Pleasant to investigate. He noticed a pattern. The Mothman wasn't just a monster, it seemed to be a harbinger. Everywhere the creature appeared, tragedy or high-strung weirdness followed. Keel himself started receiving strange phone calls with metallic voices predicting future events. The air in Point Pleasant was getting thick. It wasn't just fear of a monster anymore. It was the fear that the town had become a laboratory for something much larger and much more indifferent to human life. The Mothman was seen perched on top of the local library, silhouetted against the moon. It was seen standing in the middle of back roads, forcing drivers to swerve into ditches. But as the sightings peaked in late 1967, the messages started coming through. people who had seen the creature began reporting quote-unquote downloads of information, visions of fire, visions of water, and a specific crushing sense of a deadline approaching. They didn't know what it meant. They just knew that the clock was ticking and the gray man with the red eyes was watching it happen.
Oh.
The town was on edge for a year. The Mothman had become a local celebrity, but the joke was wearing thin. People were afraid to go out at night. They felt watched. And all of that tension, all of those sightings, were building toward a climax that no one could have predicted. A moment where the legend of a monster collided with a very real, very human catastrophe. It was December 15th, 1967. Just over a year since the first sightings at the TNT plant. The Silver Bridge was a suspension bridge that connected Point Pleasant to Canoga, Ohio. It was rush hour and the bridge was packed with cars. It was a cold evening, the kind where you have the heater cranked and the radio on just trying to get home for dinner. The vibrations of the heavy traffic were normal until they weren't.
Aww.
With a sound like a gunshot, one of the eye-bar chains snapped. In less than a minute, the entire structure folded into the icy waters of the Ohio River. 46 people lost their lives that night.
Aww.
It was a tragedy that devastated the community, leaving a scar that never quite healed. And as the dust settled and the town began to mourn, a chilling realization took hold. The Mothman sightings, they stopped almost immediately. After the collapse of the Silver Bridge, the creature that had haunted the woods and the back roads for 13 months simply vanished. This is where the legend moves from a monster movie to something more philosophical. Did the Mothman cause the bridge to fall, or was it a warning? Some people believe the creature was a psychic manifestation of the impending disaster, a dark omen trying to draw attention to a town that was about to break. Others think it was a predator feeding off the energy of the fear. But if you go to Point Pleasant today, you'll see a different side of it. They've embraced the shadow. There's a 12-foot bronze statue of the creature in the center of town. There's a museum. Every year, thousands of people gather for the Mothman Festival, which I would love to go to. It's become a symbol of the town's resilience. But even with the gift shops and the statues, if you talk to the older generation, the people who remember the sirens on the night of the bridge collapse, they don't laugh about it as much. To them, the Mothman isn't a mascot. It's a memory of a time when the world got very quiet, the lights got very dim, and something with glowing red eyes stood at the edge of the woods waiting for the end. So next time you're driving through the back roads of West Virginia and you see 2 red lights reflected in your rearview mirror, maybe don't assume it's just a car behind you, because some legends don't stay in the history books, they stay in the trees.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh.
And that is Mothman.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
That is very creepy.
Yeah. What's funny is before I looked into this and researched it, I didn't know what Mothman really was. I've heard of Mothman a million times. I'm sure listened to an episode on it. I'm almost positive I have.
Really? The only thing I knew about it was the movie. There's a movie.
See, I haven't seen the movie.
The Mothman Prophecies?
Uh-uh.
It's a pretty good movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie. And so I literally thought it was more like a giant moth man. Like maybe like a man's body with like a moth head. I don't know what I thought, but it was not this.
It was not this.
Yeah. But, so yeah, my eyes were opened.
Hey. See, I really like how my research tied into your research.
I know.
And how yours went deeper into that story. I thought that was pretty cool.
I know. We did that on purpose, actually. Yes. All right. So next we have...
Oh, we're going to do part 3?
Part 3.
Yay! Okay. So if you haven't listened to the past 2 episodes, you'll probably want to go back and do that. So this way, this part makes sense.
Yes, you really will. Because this one... Okay, so we'll give you a quick rundown though. Do you want to do it? Since you've been the one reading it.
You can do it.
So basically, I'm really bad at rundowns.
Okay, you want me to do it?
Yeah, you do it.
Okay, so the first part was from the wife's point of view. Yeah. So she kind of gives a little backstory of her culture, living in the Appalachian growing up, and then her and her husband move into this house. She does her rituals that her mama told her about. She goes through and like talks about the haints, which are her neighbors, and then I kind of give like the definition of that in the other episodes. But the neighbors are like torturing her husband, I guess, like tormenting
is
tormenting,
better. Not torturing.
Yeah, not physically. They're like tormenting him, and she doesn't understand why, because she's been doing all the things that she's been taught to do to appease them.
All the rituals and everything, and like giving them gifts and stuff.
Right. Yeah. So she doesn't understand why this is happening, and then she breaks the cardinal rule, and she breaks her barrier, and she goes and talks to the haint, and she like the haint makes her question like how her husband's been treating her, and like is he really who he says he is, stuff like that. Okay, so that's the first part.
I'm sorry, but I'm glad that you did the rundown, because I was literally going to give it like a 2-sentence max. Like, I was going to try to like explain it in a GIF, and you are like, so this happened, but that's great. That's great, because now they're caught up.
Okay, so then now we have the second part, which is from the husband's point of view, which I was curveball, did not expect that at all. So from the husband's point of view, going on about how like he doesn't understand the rituals, but like let her do her thing, you know, so that he's just not about it, I feel like. And then he talks about like how she's communing with these beings outside, and he's scared, he's not sleeping, he's drinking so that he can sleep, and it's just a whole thing. And then at the very end, I'm just doing like a really short one for his, because I feel like it recaps like a little bit, but just from a different point of view.
It's the same story, but from the other person's point of view, basically.
Right. So like he just knows that like at one point he gets up in the middle of the night, and he sees her like talking to this being, and he's like scared. Yeah. That's pretty much it.
All right.
Right?
Yep. That was it. And who's it by again?
This is by I Go by KK. So I_go_by_KK.
Perfect.
Bam. All right. So this is I'm at War with My Neighbor Part 3. Whoop whoop. Yay. All right. So it starts with I killed my husband.
Oh shit.
He's dead. The love of my life. The song in my lungs. The braid of my hair is dead. And I killed him.
Oh my God. Okay.
All right. It's been a month since I destroyed my warts. Since I sat on that cold ground and dug until the earth under my nails seemed as if it had always been a part of my hands. Since I took that jar and threw it into the rushing creek, shattering every hope of protection, the life I've lived for 6 years. Since the waters washed away what was left of my heart. That makes me sad. He came home last week, forest green eyes red and swollen from crying while driving home. It's a miracle he hadn't crashed or fallen off the outcrop with the broken tail guard. Not guardrail, tail guard.
Tail guard.
All right, one more time. He came home last week, forest green eyes red and swollen from crying while driving home. It's a miracle he hadn't crashed or fallen off the outcrop with the broken guardrail. It's been a week since he came home, and I held him for the final time. He arrived home later than usual, rushing in the door as if he was being chased. For a minute, I considered he actually could have been. Then he started packing a bag. He shoved his things in with such a panic, frantic motion. Those green eyes, once full of so much kindness and determination, were now only focused on escape. I asked him what he was doing. His gaze flicked up to me as if he'd forgotten he wasn't the only living being in this house. As if he wasn't the only human. That dusty blonde hair he kept so carefully combed for work was a worried mess. Slight patches of strands missing, assumedly pulled out from the stress of these past few years. I'm leaving, he choked out the words. Although I couldn't tell if it was from anger or fear. I was beginning to be distraught myself, although I wasn't sure why. I had made up my mind weeks ago when my feet bled, mixing the water, creating swirls of blue and red. He snapped then, threw a bottle of pills at me, an orange bottle nearly empty, marked with his name, Grayson. The dosage for twice a day, 12 hours apart. I was confused and concerned. He said nothing, only continued packing. What is this? My psych meds. They were supposed to... His voice choked, eyes welling with tears. They were supposed to fix me. They're not. I can't be here. Right?
Oh my God.
His packing now was slowing, hands shaking with the burdens of 2 decades worth of stress and sleepless nights. His crying became sobs, racking his body in heaves as he collapsed onto the quilt my mama had gifted us upon our marriage. He held it with such grief, and I was at his side in an instant. My instincts were still wary, unsure if this was a trick or the start of the end, so I remained poised to move if needed. He laid there, letting me hold him, making himself as small as possible and hiding his face away from me. I'd only seen him like this after the nightmares these past few years. My chest ached with the love I had thought died a month ago, so we sat. I held him there for nearly an hour, my body relaxing into the curves of his own, soothing his back and brushing his hair. When finally he spoke again, his voice was rough and quiet, fearful of the words leaving his mouth. He told me his story. Oh. His father was a sick man, inflicted with an illness of the mind that left him unsure of what was truly happening. It had started with whispers, haunting his thoughts and senses with things just out of sight. He would grow angry at Grayson, accusing him of intentionally whispering, then lying to get out of trouble. Grayson spent many nights in what his father had dubbed the punishment room. He gave no further details on what that meant. His father's paranoia and distrust grew as he started to see things, hovering just out of his eye line. When looked at directly, they would disappear. With the growth in fear, his anger grew doubly as fast. Grayson's mother would try and calm his father, but it was no use. She tried to get him help. He refused. Said there was nothing wrong with his mind and everything wrong with the family that was tricking him in this way. Grayson was 10 when it happened. His mother told him to run, so he did. He hid in the closet in his bedroom, tucked in the small fort his mother helped him construct out of old blankets and scarves. He heard her scream. He heard the crushing silence afterwards. He heard his father come back to reality for the first time in years. He heard him break. It was only then he ventured out of his sanctuary. It was then he saw his mother. He told me all this with a shaking voice, his full body trembling as if he was still there. It's happening to me, Lottie. I hear whispers. I'm seeing things. You know that. I just didn't tell you about the rest. Why it's been torture for me. I'm getting help. I've been seeing a therapist. She gave me those meds a month ago. They were supposed to. The sobs started again. They haven't helped the visions or whispers, I spoke softly, realizing what exactly the haints had been doing to my love. He buried his head into my chest, nodding and holding me tighter. The worst part is I can't even trust you. He held me tighter then, as my heart rate rose and fear gripped me in its cold, ironclad hand. He reached under the pillow and pulled out a little bag I'd placed there 2 years ago. He sat up and held it, his eyes saddened and uncertain, fear creasing his forehead. I laughed. I laughed hard. The type of laugh that makes your breath go short and your stomach hurt. Loretta May, this isn't funny.
Loretta May? Are you kidding?
No, not kidding.
That's my cat's name. That's our cat's name. So we have a cat. You've met her before. She's meowed before
and
on
bit
it
me.
And bit you. Yeah, and her name is Loretta May. Well, Loretta May Lynn.
Yeah.
But still. What the fuck? It's Kismet.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, continue.
Loretta May, this isn't funny. I know what you've been doing. I know this is some kind of witchery and you've been going outside at night and talking to those things. I see them.
Sorry, this is some sort of witchery.
I know you see them. I know that. He stopped as I cut him off. Grayson, open the bag and smell it. What? That's exactly what he said, by the way. Open it and smell it. I don't get it. What's the smell got to do with anything? Laughter racked my body again. It's lavender. So? The smell helps you sleep. He looked at me shocked, as if I'd just discovered the concept of a flower being a soothing scent. Also, I'm not talking to anything at night. I'm praying and walking the property to make sure everything is all right. His expression held a disbelief hard to describe. He looked at me as if his entire worldview had just been scratched out with black ink and rewritten. I continued laughing before he laughed along and fussed that it wasn't funny. He was really scared, and I was a witch cursing him. And this was somehow the cause of his nightmares. We laughed deep for nearly 20 minutes, making jokes at the other and stealing kisses. It felt as if we were newlyweds again.
What?
After we both managed to calm down, I explained to him in more detail the traditions that had been passed down to me. He understood my superstitious nature, but had never quite grasped why it was important. He listened in silence, seriousness creasing his furrowed brow, deadly still. I explained the nature of the haints, how he wasn't crazy, and they were there. I asked him how he hadn't realized this when I spoke about the neighbors, and he looked at me flabbergasted. I thought you meant our actual neighbors. You're telling me I've spent hundreds on green tea for them these past few years, and it wasn't even those neighbors?
It wasn't even the humans?
Laughter racked both of our bodies again. I was surprised how well he was taking this, all things considered. My shining boy smile had finally returned, full teeth showing, his second tooth on the left crooked as always. I didn't realize how much I'd missed that smile. I worked so hard to bring it back, yet it was all for naught. We talked for another few hours after that before exhaustion finally claimed his poor body. He fell asleep on my chest, and for once no nightmares haunted him. He slept deep and comfortable, hugging my waist as if he never wanted to let go again, even in his dreams. I watched and held him for a long while, thinking back on all the time we had spent loving each other. I thought long and hard about the pains he'd endured, being subjected to a culture so foreign to him he'd never even considered the folk tales may be true and guide our every moves. It was then I remembered the stag haint's words. More so, its lack of words. It hadn't suggested the things about Grayson. It had planted seeds of doubt in my mind and chest. So much so that the wards that had kept it off this property for 4 years were now laying destroyed in cleansing water. I leapt from bed, scrambling to find more jars and anything to keep the house safe. Grayson woke at the start, following me around the house, confused and disoriented. My wards are destroyed. His face paled, asking me what I needed. If we should call my mama, what to do. I ordered him to salt the windows and the doors. We both went deadly still when we heard the scream. Grayson scrambled faster to salt the doorways, falling back as tapping began on the front door. My hands hurried as fast as possible, shaking as I pressed the knife against my left and gasped at the pain. I bled into the jars, Grayson trying desperately to staunch the blood as I scolded him off and told him to let me work. I sealed them, prayed over the lids, and took off running towards the back door. He was yelling at me, my sunshine begging me not to go out there while it was so nearby. My head had one focus, and it did not involve my safety. It wanted him. I dashed to the fence line, clawing a shallow hole in the ground, and shoved the first jar down. The ground beneath my feet was warm and pulsing, living with the spirits of my ancestors and the neighbors who had accepted my invitations to be friendly. As I ran to the next corner, the ground almost pushed me, pumping my feet faster than I thought possible of a human body. The ground was already open in the second corner, pulling itself apart as a wet squelch. I screamed, "Thank you," shoving the jar hard and fast downwards as the ground ate it whole. I was about to run to the next when I saw him. Grayson was in the yard, shouting for me to run. He had that silly shotgun my father passed to me, holding it tight as if he wasn't a city boy who couldn't fire a BB gun. Above him stood the stag. It was no longer on all fours, nor had it retained the grace of a deer. It was undoubtedly the same beast. Its jaws was unhinged, rows upon rows of sharp, serrated teeth lining all the way back into the maw. I realized then that it hadn't spoken to me in words due to the fact that the teeth continued deep into the dark abyss. The guttural scream echoing from its too long neck was wet, wheezing, and horrifying. I froze. Grayson raised the gun. He got off one shot before it descended on him. The world felt as if it was in slow motion. I became unstuck as the ground beneath me lurched, forcing my feet forward. I took off in a run towards the haint, toward my darling, knowing there was nothing I could do, but I'd be damned if I didn't try. I grabbed its terrible arm, feeling in my hand like sandpaper mixed with the wet feeling of a bloated body. Ew. It knocked me backwards, leaving a deep gash in my chest. I stumbled up, running back yet again, determined to not let this thing win. Its head snapped to me, closing back to almost the deer it had met me as on that fateful night. It laughed at me. I could feel it laughing. You made your decision. You have found me, Loretta. It's too late. I did what any Appalachian woman would do in this situation. I punched it in the face. My hook caught it across the nose, the surprise sending it falling backwards. The ground moved yet again, pushing it further back. It's Lottie, motherfucker! It laughed again in indignation. We will meet again. And then it was gone. I held my boy. I held my love. I held my sunshine, my starlight, the water that gives the world life, those green eyes as deep as the forest in high summer. I begged him to stay, screamed for help, begged for some more. He touched my face and smiled once. He smiled that wide smile, all his teeth on display, his crooked tooth now chipped and bloody. Then he was gone.
No.
My human neighbors must have heard the commotion and called the sheriff. He had to pry me off Grayson. I couldn't breathe, couldn't see anything other than how his eyes no longer held the light of half my soul. It's been a week. It's been a week since I killed my husband, since I held him as he bled out, since the sheriff listened to my tale and, having grown up with me, knew it was true. It's been a week since the official death report dubbed it a bear attack. It's been a week since I decided my fate. I am at war with my neighbor. I know my side, and I do not sleep. I'm going to make damn sure that it doesn't either.
Oh my God.
I have so many goosies.
I want to cry.
Well, I go by KK. You have...
That was amazing.
Gut punched me. It was amazing. And I hope that you feel I did that justice.
Yes. Man.
Because let me just tell you, I felt Lottie's rage, by the way. I don't know if you could tell, but I felt it.
Man, that was really great. Thank you. I go by KK.
Thank you so much.
All right. We have one more story.
One more.
And I know that this is already a long episode, people. So this one is not too long. But thank you for sticking with us.
Yes, yes.
Okay, this one is called A Visitor Who Never Left, and it's by Reddit user, I'm guessing Kirsa Bervin. It's KIRSEBERVIN. So Kirsa Bervin, I'm guessing. Yeah. Okay. I was 18 years old, female, when this happened. Female is like in parentheses. Yeah. At the time, I was living at home with my parents. And this is in the true stories.
Yay!
Yeah. So I was living at home with my parents who had recently moved far out into the countryside. Their farm was part of a tiny rural cluster, about 7 farms on one road. That night, I was home alone with our dog, a large Labrador I was looking after until my parents came back the next day. It was around 11 p.m. I was lying on the couch upstairs with a movie playing quietly on the TV, half asleep and relaxed in the stillness of the house. Then 3 loud knocks shattered the silence. They came from the front door downstairs, the door directly at the bottom of the staircase leading up to where I was. The sound was sharp and deliberate, not hesitant, not accidental. My dog sprang out of his bed beside me and started barking immediately. I tried to calm him, but he was beyond listening. He bolted down the stairs and positioned himself in front of the door, barking and growling into the darkness. Outside, the courtyard was completely black. I stood halfway down the staircase, my pulse hammering in my ears, and called out, "Hello?" No reply, just silence. I called again, louder this time. Still nothing. The quiet that followed felt wrong, thick and watchful. After a moment that felt much longer than it was, I forced myself to move. I stepped down the rest of the stairs, my dog still tense at the door. Carefully, I opened it just enough to lean my head outside. There was nothing there. No lights, no movement, no footsteps fading away. Only the dark courtyard and the cold night air.
Girl, let me just tell you, you are way more brave than I am.
I know, right? It felt like whoever or whatever had knocked had simply vanished. I shut the door quickly and locked every entrance in the house. Smart. My hands were shaking as I called my parents. They immediately contacted our neighbors, a couple who lived nearby. Within minutes, they arrived. I explained what had happened, still trying to steady my voice. They decided to walk around the barns and check the property. Those 10 minutes felt endless. When they returned, they said they hadn't found anything. Still, they strongly suggested I come sleep in their guest room for the night.
Oh,
Sold. They didn't say sold. I said sold. I told them it was probably just me overreacting if nothing had been found, but they kept insisting, and more seriously than I expected, that it would be safer to come with them. I refused. I couldn't leave my dog alone.
Oh,
Fair.
valid.
Before leaving, they told me to call immediately if anything else happened, no matter how small. When my parents returned the next day, they installed surveillance cameras outside the front door.
Oh.
They said it was to make me feel safer, especially since I was often home alone with the dog. A few months later, my parents were celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary. During the evening, I found myself talking with my female neighbor and thanked her again for coming over that night. Her expression shifted. She went quiet for a moment, like she was weighing whether to say what was on her mind. Then she told me she had to be honest with me. That night, shortly before my parents called her, she had been outside saying goodnight to her horses. The yard was completely still, no wind, no distant cars, nothing. That's when she heard it. Footsteps. Clear, deliberate footsteps crunching through the gravel in our courtyard. Not random, not hurried. Slow and controlled, like someone walking with purpose in the dark. She said the sound carried unnaturally well in the silence. Then the footsteps stopped right there in the yard. She waited to hear them continue, to hear someone speak, a door, anything, but there was only a heavy, suffocating silence, and then moments later my parents called her about the knocking. She told me she never heard those footsteps leave. Oh. And that's the end. Oh, I need to know more.
Okay, first, do y'all still live there?
Right. I need to know that.
Second, did they ever come back?
Right?
And if they did you get it on video?
Yes.
I need to know these things. I would so love if you reach out to us and let us know, because,
yes,
man.
Let us know, because that's creepy.
So, like, the neighbor never saw anything.
But they heard the footsteps.
Right. Ooh.
But the footsteps didn't leave. What? I don't like it.
What if it was the Mothman? And then he just like... Whew.
Yeah.
See?
It could have been.
Oh.
Man. Anyways.
Theories. We have all these theories.
Yes, we have theories. Well, but let us know. I want an update, please.
And
if you're listening. And thank you. Thank you for letting us share that.
Yes, because that was awesome. That was creepy. First off, your puppy, your fur baby, awesome.
Yes.
Doing a protect. I love that.
Being the best boy.
And you have way more gumption than I do, because I would not have cracked that door.
I know. I would have locked all of it up tight. Nope. At first, when it said 3 knocks, though, I thought it was going demonic. I thought this story was going to be a demonic one. But I don't know.
But I want to know.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you have any stories to send in to us, that would be really grand.
And they can be funny stories. They could be...
Yeah, we need palate cleansers. We want to be able to do funny stories too.
Ooh, maybe we can do... Maybe not the next episode, but maybe the episode after that.
We could do funny ones?
Yeah.
All funny ones?
Yeah, all funny ones.
Ooh, a funny episode. Okay, I'm down.
Okay.
We'll figure that out. All right. But yeah, send them to of Malice and God damn it. I almost did it.
You can
of
send
Malice and Mirth at gmail.com, or you can just send them to any of our social medias in direct messages, and we'll get them that way.
And if you prefer to do it on Reddit, we have our Reddit handle too.
Oh yeah, it's just of Malice and Mirth.
Keeping it easy.
All of them. Yep. But
we hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, and thank you for sticking with us for an hour and a half almost
on our little monumental episode of
number 10.
I don't know why we had to get so high with that.
I don't know, but it's because we're excited.
Yes, thank y'all.
Yes, this has been a fun 10 weeks.
Yes.
Yes, it has. Here's to 10 more.
Clink. Yeah. Chink.
We just... Should I say that?
Well, yeah, there's that. Hope y'all have an amazing day.
Yes.
Evening.
Morning.
Sleepy sleep. Whatever.
Oh.
Yeah.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Pinch poke. No, it's supposed to be pinch poke, you owe me a Coke.
Well, whatever. Either way, you owe me a Coke.
Well, pinch back, you owe me a 6-pack.
A 6-pack? Oh. Oh, you getting fancy. You getting feisty tonight, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll let you go now. We love you.
That's all we got.
Yeah.
Right.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.